in Georgia at this point has huge implications for the entire country. The stakes are high and the emotions are high on all sides. We will not let those debates distract us from our work. We will get it right and we will defend the integrity of our elections. In some states, there are complaints about monitors not being allowed to watch the count. In Georgia, this process is and will remain open and transparent to monitors. If any member of the public raises legitimate concerns, we'll investigate those. We are committed to doing anything and everything to maintaining trust in our electoral process here for every Georgian, regardless of partisan preference. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Gabriel Sterling, the Statewide Voting System Implementation Manager. And you keep putting your microphones where I put my computer. Essentially right now, the outstanding ballots are about the same as they were this morning. Not too much change on that front. But what we do have is a little more information on some of the provisionals and the UACAVA ballots that are out there right now. So let's see, let's just start with the margin right now. We're looking at 2,448,796 votes for President Trump and 2,450,381 votes for Vice President Biden. And that gives us a margin of 1,585. That's where we stand right now as of 3:08 p.m. on, it's Friday now. We do know that today is the day for the UACAVA deadline for those military and overseas ballots that would have been postmarked by Tuesday, Election Day, to be accepted and counted in the state. We do have some updated numbers on that. Let's see. On the overall side, we have 18,008 of those ballots have been accepted, and it leaves 8,410 that are still available to be received. Now, again, I want to reemphasize this. That does not mean there's a bucket of 8,410 votes ready to be counted. That means that there are 8,410 votes that could have been postmarked on Tuesday and could be received by the elections official today. So, as I said earlier, it's going to be more than zero and less than 8,410. So it'll be somewhere in that range. We don't really know how many that is. I do have a county-by-county breakdown of available ones. I'm going to give you some of the highlights, and we're going to try to put this into a release to give the details following this press conference. So, y'all usually want the big ones, so we'll go with that. Bibb, where Macon is, 86 are still out there. Chatham, where Savannah is, 395. Cherokee, do you choose Woodstock? Yeah, Woodstock, why not? 171. Clayton County, 241. Cobb County, 569. Columbia County, 247. Coweta County, 99. DeKalb County, 802. And I want to take a note of personal privilege for a second for the Yankees in the room. It's DeKalb, not DeKalb, not DeKalb, it's DeKalb. So we got to pronounce these things. Doherty, another one of those, where Albany is, they're 74. Douglas County, 111. Fayette, 149. Forsyth, 153. Fulton, 956. And that's the single biggest number, I believe, right there. Gwinnett, 741. Henry, 238. This is another fun one. It's not Houston in Georgia, it's Houston. Houston County, 196. Liberty County, 173. There's a military base there, so there's a little outweighted to its actual size and population. Lowndes County, where Valdosta is, 141. Muskogee County, where Columbus is, 323. Paulding County, 105. Richmond, where Augusta is, 244, home of the Masters coming up soon. Rockdale, 88 is 80. And I think that's all the biggest ones. So you can take those, add them together, and the balance would be probably about 4,000 for the rest of the 159 counties that I didn't name. So after that, we have the provisionals. And I do have an initial provisional report from Fulton County, which is obviously the largest one, which had the biggest potential impact. Their total provisional ballots received was 4,869. They accepted 3,603. So that means they rejected 1,266 of the provisional ballots they had on hand. The biggest chunks of those were the eligibility was verified, means the voter brought their ID in, and that was 1,205 of those. and that voted out of precinct, which means they were inside the correct county. They were Fulton County voters, but they were at the wrong precinct. That's 2,398. Now, the unfortunate part for some of those voters and some of those candidates means if they voted out of precinct, essentially they can only vote on the things that were on the ballot that affected the areas that they shared with the other precincts. So things like president, senator, those votes will count, but state house, county commission, those races would not. That's the difference when you have the vote out of county like that. We don't like seeing voting out of county. We try to encourage people to be told to go to their correct polling location. Now, the rejected ballot justifications we saw on this is out of county, 673. You can only vote provisionally inside your own county. Not registered, so these people were not registered voters, 573, and non-citizens attempting to vote was 13. So that's the initial provisional report from Fulton. I expect that to change somewhat. I was talking to our Fulton County monitor earlier. He said there were some other changes moving on that, as well as some of the absentees that were damaged, they were duping. I don't have a final number on that, but it's somewhere south of 300 that they were cut when they were using the openers and things like that, that they had to redupe, and they're going to be scanning those, and those will be added to tallies today. Let's see, not that one. You know, you start to get crazy looking at all these spreadsheets. They are not. As I understand it, they have not scanned and uploaded those yet. Justin, you're getting ahead. Let me get through all this, and you can come back later. All right, so the total number of provisionals in the state. This is not the total number. We have the numbers from 134 of the 159 counties, and we have a lot of the large ones, but I don't think we have all of the large ones. Like we have DeKalb. Okay, Clayton. I think we might have all the big ones in here now. Again, this is a moving target dealing with elections workers who are doing lots of things at one time. We're very happy when we're working together to get this information to the viewers and the voters out there. And guess what? Gabe didn't hit the sum on all these things yet, so we're going to have to take a second while he does that on live television, because that's the exciting television y'all came for today. All right. 13,012 is the total number of provisionals we're seeing right now. That includes the Fulton County numbers, so you can back those out from the ones I just gave you. So it's really closer to 9,000. And they have these fun things called codes. And these are the different states a provisional can be in. It can be for curing your voter ID. There's two different versions of that. There's a general voter ID, like you forgot, or it was a first-time voter ID. We didn't have a good voter ID on file. Then there's a provisional not registered, which they couldn't prove your registration at the time, but you can come back and cure that. Extended hours. As y'all may know, we had a handful of precincts around the state that were extended past the 7 o'clock hour under law. All those votes are provisional until just in case a court adjudicates that they shouldn't have been open, but they will all get counted. Then you have out of precinct, which I was describing before, where you can be in the right county, but you're in the wrong precinct. Not a citizen, pretty self-explanatory. And then we have what we call incomplete registrations, where they have a partial registration in the system, but they don't have enough information to identify the voter. They have the opportunity to come back and cure those. We will again try to work on getting a breakdown of those out to y'all. But the biggest one is going to be the, the out of precinct voters, and that's going to be column G. So let's see how many of those there are. These are ones that will be counted and ended up being included into the count, 3,908. And you don't have to take the subset of the Fulton out because we didn't include that. So the 3,908 is of the counties we have, not including the Fulton ones, which I gave you those numbers earlier. We're seeing uploads every 20, 30 minutes as the counties go through the final stages of trying to get everything done today with the UACAVA, the absentee cures, and the provisionals being verified. So you're going to see lots of uploads. And what we've noticed is it goes up 3 on the margin, goes up 3, goes down 2, goes up 7. I mean, so nothing is moving the needle a lot on these things. So we're still hanging around that 1,500 number right now. But the larger chunk of provisionals could potentially move it some. The UACAVA could potentially move it some. The duplications of damaged ballots could move it some. And again, it depends on where they're coming from. And we're still trying to get everything closed out today. It could slide to tomorrow. And again, when you have my entire high school, I think, was about 2,000 people, and we have less than that involved in the margin here. So every one of these votes is important, and the job of the elections officials in this office is to assure that every single legal vote is counted and that the will of the voters of the state of Georgia is met on this very, very important election. Now, Justin, you can ask your question. Okay.
When we're looking at a timeline here, we are not talking about knowing who's won this election in the next few days, are we?
Given the strong probability of a recount, we will not be able to ascertain that. Now, we're going to go through our legal processes, which means we have to certify. And I do anticipate that there could potentially be lawsuits from both the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign, depending on where they are and what they're looking at, that a judge could order the counties or the state to do different specific things. But right now, we're operating the laws of the state that we currently have, the timeline we have. We're trying to move to the risk limiting audit as fast as we can through county certification, and then following the risk limiting audit, the certification of the state, and then likely whoever is in second, their initial request for a recount.
So with all the talk about legal voting, is there any specific evidence of rampant illegal voting?
As I said earlier, in a situation where the margin is, so small, you don't need to have anything that's rampant. There's irregularities that you can see that's very, very common in nearly every election, but in this particular case, every single one of them is very important. Every insight we've gotten, every report we've gotten is going to be investigated fully, and we are working hard to protect the integrity of the vote, regardless of who makes a complaint about any of these things. We can't say that, sir, yet because they're still under investigation. Yes, sir.
Mr. Sterling, just a few hours ago, President Trump just says, quote, "Where are the missing military ballots in Georgia? What happened to them?" How do you respond to that?
Well, we still have a few hours to see what will be coming in from the U.S. Post Office. That has to be postmarked by Tuesday. So we feel like that we will have an answer to, quote unquote, not missing ballots. There are ballots that are going to make it. There's ballots that are not going to make it. And we're going to count all the legal ballots. Legal ballots have to be here by close of business today and have to have been postmarked by Election Day. Yes, ma'am.
Have any military ballots arrived here?
Well, if you notice the difference on the amounts that I said here today, we had about 17,500, give or take, yesterday. I have 18,000 today. So 500 of them have already come in the last few hours and been processed by the counties. Yes, John.
Do you anticipate a situation where today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, the Secretary of State is going to stand here and say, this candidate won and this candidate lost?
Again, we report the results from every county. At some point, the legal process continues that the counties have to certify. Once the counties certify, we look at their paperwork and make sure it is all clean and legal, and then we will certify. That is the point at which the Secretary of State would stand here or stand wherever he might and say, this is the winner of this election as it stands right now, and then we anticipate a recount coming.
And then, prior to that, would there be a point at which you say, all the votes, all the legal votes that we know about have been counted?
The process we have is what gets us to that point. We certify. That means these are all the legal votes we have, and all the legal votes are counted. That is the legal process been set up in this state for many decades. Yes, ma'am. It's the 13th for the counties, and at the outer end, the 20th for the state. Our intention and our hope, and working diligently with the counties, is that they will certify faster than that so that we may begin the RLA process, the risk limiting audit process, so we can certify before then, so we have a little bit more time and wiggle room to deal with what we know will likely be a recount. John, you had a lot. Hold on. Ma'am, you can go. Ma'am, you can go ahead.
All of the legal votes we've counted has been the general message of you across the board. Even the Secretary of State's speech this morning, that is his language as well, is actually there's an added phrase, all illegal votes will not be counted. Why the change in language?
I think it's just for clarification, because by definition, you count all legal votes means you're not counting illegal votes. Yes, ma'am. What they're doing right now is you have to verify all of those first. They will likely be scanned today, and they could even be part of some of the uploads we have seen today. I'm giving you the latest information we have, and I do not believe most of these have been scanned yet, because usually the intent is you don't want to go through scanning a bunch of stuff, then have to do like 8 more later on. It's easier process-wise to do everything at one time than to do it in bits and pieces when you're talking with a small of amount. Yes, sir. Hold on. I know I'm getting a risk limiting audit question. This is always my geeky time.
Guidance on the risk limiting audit, and given the closeness of the presidential race, would you prefer not to do that as the audit? Is that tantamount to a recount?
If you look, well, we're doing a recount anyway, but you're right. Unfortunately, with the way as I pointed out to you yesterday, the day before, it's all kind of running together for me at this point. The rules in the SCB kind of outline this, and one of the rules is for ease of use to a degree. And obviously, he's pointing out that in a risk limiting audit, the point is you're trying to use the smallest number of ballots available to get you to a point of confidence that the outcome has been reached. When it's, at this point, I think it's 0.03% difference, he is correct. It would essentially be a recount, which would be extremely difficult on the counties to do. So I think that might answer the question for you itself. Yes, ma'am. Our hope would be today. They could slip into tomorrow because, again, everybody's exhausted. It's Friday. There's a Georgia game tomorrow. It's kind of a big one. We got to focus on the really important things in this state sometimes in order to recover, to be prepared for dealing with what is now a vital thing for this country. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Following up on President Trump's tweets about missing military ballots, deadline was actually at 5 p.m. today. Is the Secretary of State's office concerned about that misinformation that continues to come out from the White House, from President Trump specifically?
Well, I think what the President Trump is trying to encourage is the hope that as many of our military heroes, men and women across the seas, have turned in their ballots and they will be arriving under the legal deadline to this state. Yes, ma'am. As I understand it, that's pretty normal, yes. Yes, sir.
So you said that you guys are about to
We'll come back to you in a second.
potential investigations into irregularities. Can you tell us how many you are investigating without going into specifics?
I really couldn't answer that because, frankly, I just don't know. I'll try to figure out something for you. We'll talk Chief of Investigations. I need some water. Well, hold on. If that's what I said, then it's probably correct. Let's see. Yeah, 13,012. No, this is all provisional ballots, accepted, not accepted, discard. I mean, there's, none of these have been, again, latest numbers we have. None of this is either for sure going to go in except the number I gave you, which was the out of precinct ones. Since everybody's ballot has president on it, all of these will go towards that, and that is 3,908. And again, we're also missing about 20 counties out of this, so that number will be bigger at the end of the day. Your follow-up. They're treated the same way. Yes, sir.
Are you confident you're getting good numbers from the county? Because this morning you said 3,500 ballots left to be counted in Gwinnett County. You went out to Gwinnett and they said at least 75.
Okay, there's a difference on this particular thing because you noticed they pushed out results on election night. So what we're talking about there is a difference between what they've already uploaded, okay, and then they had a bucket of things that were the new ones that came in Tuesday, essentially. And then there were some other ones that were there from the earlier time they had to rescan. So the 7,000 is what they were scanning, but the only new votes that will be uploaded are in that 4,000 to 3,500 amount, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to try. They pushed out a little over 80,000 votes in a single upload. And there was an issue because of the adjudication where they basically said, we're going to push out the results, and just the results that we have right now. We're going to rescan these things because at that point, it was sort of decided internally there by their elections board. They had an option A and option B of how to do this. They wanted to get the information out because that was the most important thing at the time. So inside that 7,500 to scan, part of the results that we all already see are already there. So there's a new section of stuff that was the stuff that came in before 7 p.m. on Tuesday. And those are the additional ones on top of that. And again, it was between 4,400 and 3,500. And frankly, when I said 3,500, I was talking to a staffer and I thought I had a confirmed number. And it might have been wrong now, so I apologize for that. But again, this is a moving target, so that's about the reason for the 4,400. In answer to your other question, yes, we are confident in the numbers we're getting from the county. Is it possible they're off by 1 or 2 or a small percent? Yes, because again, these people are underpaid and overworked, like so many right now, and they're doing their best to get us the best numbers, and we're doing our best to be open and transparent about where we stand in the country right now.
I think we've all covered this time question in it from every direction, but just one last time. At what point do you anticipate that you will be at the point where you won't have to come out here and say, we have this many votes, category votes to count, we have that many category votes to count, where you will be at that point where everyone is good?
Well, here's the thing right now, and it's frustrating, I know, to people across the country, and I've been watching news conferences from Philadelphia and Las Vegas and everything else. This is a legal process. It's a legal process we've been doing for several years, and we are still inside the window for ballots to be counted following the different sets of laws. This is the outer edge of the UACAVA ballots being the last ones, of getting them legally established and counted. This is the outer edge of getting those provisionals validated and counted. We are now at the outer edge of getting the absentees cured and counted. So we will know the final universe of numbers by today, and that's going to be an easy thing to see. Now, after that, we have to go through the final process of, you're going to go through, you're going to kind of audit your internal results. You're going to make sure that, your numbered list of voters matches the ballots, matches your cards. I mean, there's a lot of processes that are there to protect the integrity of the vote that we have to go through to finalize this. That's why we have the county certification process. Now, our intent is to try to move to the state certification the county certification process first, as quickly as we can, so we can move to the risk limiting audit, because that's going to validate, under our HB 316 election reform law, supported by Secretary Raffensperger and passed in 2019 by the legislature. That is the thing that's going to let people know the paper ballot that I voted and the outcomes that we saw were correct. That's a very important part of this process. Once that's done, then we move to state certification. The outer edge of state certification we have to do is going to be November 20th. And why is that? I'll repeat it again, because we know we have a minimum of one runoff, and now it looks like there may be two runoffs for United States Senate. And the UOCAVA rules that are federal on that require that we get those ballots ready to go to the UOCAVA voters and email them that they're prepared on Saturday, November 21st. So we have to certify an election before we can give out ballots for an election. So that is our outer edge. That's what we have to have done. Yes, ma'am. Sure. John's just being greedy today. It's okay.
Will they be posted by candidate on your website with it saying 100%?
That would be the intent, because these are unofficial results. Now remember, the official results, what everything's going to be based on, everybody's looking at it right now. Yes, Biden's ahead by 1,585 votes, but that could change in the next few days given the universal votes that are out there. He could extend his lead, it could stay the same, or President Trump could come back into the lead. There is still time and a universal ballots that could allow for that. Yes, ma'am. All right, you're right on the first one. Okay, now on the second one, I already gave you the Fulton County breakout, so we know some of those are in there. So that 13,000 then drops to about 9,000. So then, inside of that 9,000, we know for certain what will be added is 3,908 of the ones that were out of precinct. So that then further drops your number down to, see, 9,000. We should never do math on national television. 9,000, about 5,000. Okay. So those are the potential additional votes on top of the ones we absolutely know will be input. Does that follow up? Do you get it? Good, thanks. Yes, ma'am.
But those ones that we know will be inputted may or may not have already been.
The likelihood is some of them have, but I think the bulk of them will not, because like I said before, process-wise, it's easier to do it all at the end of the day when you know you have everything in. 1 second. They're roughly the same right now. We haven't seen too much motion on those, and we've been seeing all day long ticky-tacky things from all the little counties, like 3 here, 4 there, and that's what I was talking about before those names. Yes, sir. Yeah. Let's go through this one more time. Because you're going to have a certification process where they're going to have to go through, and there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of ability to have to know that all of our ballots from every single county are there and accounted for and then counted. The county says basically, yes, state, we know this is our final number. We will look at it and assess it, and then we certify it, but that's with the risk limiting audit in between. And the risk limiting audit, as we know, is the item that's going to be part of the foundation of bedrock of trust, because it's going to certify that the scanners reflected what was on the paper ballot votes for the first time. So that's where the reassurance comes from, is the process, following the law, putting in the risk limiting audit, and then doing the certifications. Yes? Oh.
Just in terms of the stretch, we said about 4,000 in process this morning. Was there an update on that?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
What's up, man? Hey, dude. How are you?
Like for your audio.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, I didn't mean to keep walking in front of y'all. I didn't mean to keep walking in front of y'all. government side and everything.
Thank you. Whose is this? Who is this behind you? You can just place it underneath their equipment or in the basket.